Seb, and I am COO at Beam.org. Beam uses technology to make it easy for the public to help homeless people for the long term. So how it works is we take referrals for people struggling with homelessness from government, and an operations executive in our team then creates a public crowdfunding campaign for them on our website. And the goal of this is to remove all barriers they face to getting out of homelessness. So it'll be things they need for a job or a home, such as deposit or vocational training. And we'll then support them the rest of the way by buying the items they need and finding a really great job or home they can access to leave homelessness behind for good. So embarrassingly, I still don't have a driving license. So it occasionally comes up from time to time. Every time I've booked a Beam retreat in the middle of nowhere, I've then had to go and plead other people in the team to take us there. So yeah, a bit embarrassing, but hopefully won't be the case for too much longer. So pretty serendipitously, I would say. I imagine that's true for a lot of people. Maybe things have changed. I've got older and you now have lots of school children who really want to be COOs, but I personally didn't even know what a COO was until I was in my 20s. So by way of a bit of background on me, I grew up in Cambridge and London, both affluent cities, particularly London, but with visible homeless problems that only got worse as I got older. So now obviously I'm really shocked by all this, and like a lot of people, I help where I can, trying to act like a compassionate human being. So, make time to speak to people, buying the big issue, that kind of thing. But ultimately, I know I'm becoming desensitized as time is going on. I kind of feel less, not more emotionally affected by it. And I know that these small gestures make no obvious difference. So at 21, I signed up to volunteer as a homeless outreach worker and later joined a homeless charity full time. And so I entered the system as a really devoted professional. The entire job is just helping people move from the street into hostels each week. But even then, there is this slightly nagging question that after I place someone into a homeless hostel, what actually happens next? Did we solve this problem momentarily, or have we changed their life? And do we really need something much, much bigger than this to solve such a huge social problem? So fast forward a few years later, and I'm walking down the road near where I live. I see a friend cycling past me, and she stops and tells me she's just been on a panel with a tech CEO, Alex, who's looking to use technology to help homeless people. And he's calling it Beam. Would I like to meet him to hear more? So a few weeks after that, Alex and I meet with a CEO of a charity I've worked with many years ago, and they agree to pilot Beam with their network of homeless services across London. And then a few months after that, I hand in my notice at the NHS where I've been working, and I joined Beam full-time as COO. So that was nearly exactly 4 years ago to the day. Operations at Beam really means looking after the pipeline of homeless people using the service. So with this, I try to split days so I can kind of batch process with my meetings, but also have other days that are completely free. So to take each of those in turn, the meeting days tend to be focused on monitoring the health of the current operational model and looking at how we can change and improve it. And I think one of the really exciting things about Beam is that increased efficiency literally means you're able to help more people and create more social impact in a truly tangible sense. And so the core metric that the entire company works towards is the number of lives we've changed. I also spend a lot of time hiring, so we try to make our rounds as creative as possible, and I always enjoy them. On that note, we have 20 open roles in the company at the moment. Most of them are in operations, so if you're interested in joining us, do get in touch with me on LinkedIn. And then the meeting-free days, I try to spend kind of for planning. So I really believe that unless you create structure around trying to pull yourself out of the day-to-day, you just can't manage the team that well. And especially given the pace of operations, it can be nearly impossible to do this. So yeah, really trying to find ways to pull your head up and look into the distance a bit. So I think the first challenge that, to a large extent we're still working on has been bringing together what have previously been two slightly different worlds. So you have had this split, I think, in society between startups that are incredibly ambitious and mission driven, but to be honest, don't always make the world a better place. And then social impact, on the other hand, which is often encompassed by a more traditional charity model. So a big part of that, I think, has meant defining our own culture around bringing these two things together, and looking at, say, what well-being means. If you take other companies and startups, it can, I think, be a bit simpler, health insurance or a gym membership. But at Beam, the operations team is doing direct work with homeless people every single day. So it's really about trying to design a culture that allows them to remain very energized and empathetic while working with lots of people who've often experienced really difficult lives. So to give some examples of what we've done, the team will have monthly sessions with a clinical psychologist. We have an unlimited leave policy, and we require people to take a minimum of 1 week off every quarter. Our tech team spends loads of time to look at how they can liberate the operations team from doing lots of admin so they can just focus on giving really high quality support to people. You need to realize that you are the conduit through which vision becomes action, and that generally means moving around the company an awful lot. So it often is the case that once one problem gets solved, you immediately need to turn your focus to an equally large challenge. And so you really need to try and balance creativity with quite a strong sense of discipline. So you need to be creative in the sense that you'll need to invent and test new solutions to these problems. There often is a very, very high amount of ambiguity involved, but you need to be incredibly disciplined with your time and focus, given that you will be spread quite thin across all the different issues that you're working on. First bit of advice would be to get really, really interested in people. So I think one of the wider shifts that we're seeing at the moment is a move away from businesses that are just defined by process and policies to ones where it's about providing purpose and meaning to people at work. And therefore, to be really great at the role, you need to have a very strong mission, but also this deep understanding of what's motivating people across different teams, so you can align the company structure around it. And so this is not something which can be, purely modern Excel. You need to be, I think, very open-minded in how you try and approach and refine it. And then second piece of advice would be to really try and think in the medium term. Do tend to be a bit split between a high-level mission, which is often partially personified by the CEO, and just a really frantic week-to-week rush of activity. So I think trying to think where the company is going to be in 3 and 12 months' time, and then work backwards from there, is a much, much easier approach. It allows you to think through kind of smaller operational details within the context of that broader shift. And it allows you to stop getting too bogged down in detail or sense that everything is urgent, because it gives you a kind of framework to prioritize through.